Located on 225 acres in Garden City, Long Island, Nassau Community College, a member of the State University of New York system, has close to 20,000 students attend the school each year. The college mascot is Leo the Lion, and these are his stories of the school's absolute best and brightest who have graduated over the past 50 plus years. So let's catch up together as the Alumni Association of Nassau Community College proudly presents Lion Tales on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to Lion Tales. My name is Dr. Lynnda Nadien, and I am a director on the board of the Alumni Association at Nassau Community College and a proud graduate. I am here to celebrate the successes of our alum, and together we will share stories that will inspire, uplift, and often amuse you. Each week, I will introduce you to alumni of Nassau Community College interested in sharing their experiences while attending the college and the secrets to their success. The Alumni Association is preparing many upcoming events, and you, as an alum, can be part of the action. Look for many new and exciting events on the Alumni Association social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and our webpage at ncc.edu/alumni, and Twitter at Dr. Lynnda Nadien. If you are listening, audience, have any positive news that you would like to share about alumni happenings, we would love to hear from you, so email us at ncc.edu/alumni. Our guest today is Danny Epstein, class of 1983. Danny is a proud alum of Nassau Community College, class of 1983. Danny is the founder of Raleigh SEO Team and Stratophi LLC, a digital marketing company that focuses on positioning clients as market leaders. He is a digital marketing strategist. Danny grew up on Long Island and is a former professional musician and was a sales manager for companies such as Ovation and Hamer Guitars. Welcome to Lion Tales, Danny Epstein, class of 1983.
So, thank you so much, Lynnda. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. So, tell us about your decision to attend Nassau Community College way back when.
Sure. I was a professional musician, and I had a motorcycle accident. So I did some severe damage to my left hand, and I actually couldn't play. So I was kind of caught in limbo. I didn't really know what to do. So I moved back to New York and I got a job, and I decided that I needed to continue my education. So I enrolled at Nassau, and it turned out to be a really great decision.
Yeah, and so many of the guests say that they came in not 100% sure, but that Nassau somehow changed that trajectory of their life and their journey. And when you and I spoke off the air way back when, we were talking about the fact that you agreed that Nassau gave you something that you really needed, which was what?
Oh, it's so much. First of all, it opened my eyes to higher education. I learned how to be a good student at Nassau. Mm-hmm. I just had some incredible opportunities. I had some great professors, and I learned how to study, and I learned how to get my work done that I struggled with in high school. I was not a great student. And I actually wound up winning some business administration is what I studied there, and I won some business department scholarships, which really helped. So I just learned how to get focused at Nassau. And, it's funny because a lot of the stuff that I learned at Nassau is stuff that I still use every day in business.
Yeah, it
was a great thing.
Yeah, it's very true that what were some of the memorable courses that you had at the beginning when you first came in? Well,
one that really sticks out is statistics. That's something that I use all of the time. Just the whole given distribution of a given population, even distribution of a given population, the bell curve, more or less.
Right, yeah.
In marketing, we use that all the time when we're analyzing populations that we're going to be sending messages out to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, because that's my background is as a data analyst using, school data to support providing reports to the school district in terms of student population, free and reduced lunch. So statistics, when I know when I was here, it was really difficult for me until later on when I left and I took statistics again, I all of a sudden it's sort of like unraveled for me, and I really became like very good at it, which I was surprised.
Me too, Lynnda. I had the same experience because I struggled with math. I was always much more of a creative person. But when I took stats at Nassau, it was the first time where the professor actually presented in a way that made sense to me.
Do you remember getting the calculator? I know my father had to go to Macy's and buy me this special calculator. And I think my mother had a coupon.
Texas Instrument BA65 or something like that, right?
It was one of the, and then I was looking at the calculator. I'm like, I'm never going to use that calculator. And so as far as the professors go, do you remember what type of an impact they had on you? Most of us always forget names, but it comes to us after. So who are some of those memorable professors that had that impact on you?
There was a number. It's so long ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I think it's 40 years ago.
Professors' names. Oh my goodness, that's the scariest thing.
If it's 83, because 93 is 30, so 83 is 40. See, I'm getting better at math just as we speak right now. So can you talk a little bit about your current work and the connections that you're making right now in the field that you're in?
Sure. We are a digital marketing company. So we have two different divisions. We have a Raleigh SEO team, which basically does exactly that. It provides SEO services and kind of hands-on improvements for businesses to capture more market share online. And then we have another company, Stratophi, where we have 19 proprietary platforms that we've put together. And that's really cool because it's broken down to 4 core elements that are necessary to really position any company online as a market leader. And that's really super important because, in the world that we live in today, 82% of leads generated online are going through Google, right? So 82% of people who are looking to do something, with a company are going to go online and they're going to check their reputation. So the vast majority of that goes to the top 3 return queries in the search result.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, Lynnda, if you stop and think about that for a second, and anybody who's really not focused on positioning themselves as a market leader, then they're stuck with all of the other competitors looking for 12% of the business. That's what they're literally fighting for, where the top 3 are really getting 82% of the business. That's just insane to me.
Yeah.
So it's vitally important today that companies understand that in order for them to survive long term, they really have to establish themselves online. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because especially today they announced more cuts at at Google. Obviously, they were making cuts at Google, but I think today it was
10,000 people.
Yeah, 10,000 people. Today, I think it was 6,000, and Amazon is one of them. Google, and these are famous companies because if you did do a search, you would say to yourself, "Wow!" I mean, Google's comes up immediately. Amazon comes up immediately. Right. Oh, today it was Spotify. Spotify was cutting 6,000 jobs, I guess, nationwide. And I'm not sure exactly where their headquarters are, but that definitely impacts right now because they were doing really well, and now they're still expected to cut some workers. So, again, I think for you as a business leader, you're trying to get yourself out there so people will, if they do Google you, they'll be able to say, okay, this is something that we might want to work with. Is that how it would work?
Well, yeah, that's definitely part of it. But stop and think about this for a second. If you're going to make a purchase, whatever it might be, let's say you want to do some work on the house, or you just want to do business with a company. What's the first thing that you do?
You try to get a reference, or maybe you do a search and see what the offers are and, the best price.
Exactly. And most people, like if somebody wants to get their kitchen redone, right? So they might have a couple of people who they're considering doing their kitchen. It doesn't have to be a kitchen. It could be a dentist. It could be a lawyer. It could be anything. Ultimately, what's going to happen is people are going to go and they're going to look at reviews and they're going to look at their reputation.
Right.
And, so who's got the best reviews and the most reviews usually stands out, right?
Yes.
Reputation is so vitally important today. So, that's one of the pieces of the puzzle. But most people don't understand, how important reputation is. And like a lot of times a client will call us and they'll say, okay, what do we need to do? And we'll tell them, well, what are you doing with your reputation? And they'll say, well, we manage our reputation. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? And for the most part, it doesn't really mean that much. But there's three parts to reputation. You have to build a reputation, and then you have to manage the reputation. But the most important thing where most people fall short is you have to market that reputation. You have to get that reputation out in front of your customers as a differentiator to set yourself apart. So that's part of becoming a market leader. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think, I do watch TikTok a lot, and a lot of the ads come up and they have someone showing you the product, and then it will say shop now. And, it's very enticing. And a lot of things
right.
I've ordered online, and then they've come to the house, and then you say, oh my God, that's really not what I think I saw. And so again, then they ask you, would you do a review? And then you do a review. And I always like to leave a positive review, but I have had products come to the house that just really didn't look like what I had seen. And I think that can also tarnish a reputation of a business if the products they're selling really aren't true to size and, true to the commitment of, the putting that effort into the ads where, some of the ads, you don't know if it's real or not. You don't know if someone is legit or if people are just using it to sell the product.
Right. Now, in our company, we won't work with anybody like that.
Yeah.
So, we only work with people with shared values. So in our world, we only want to work with companies that share the same value of us, of meeting and exceeding our clients' expectations. So that's part of a great reputation. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because if you're not customer centric, then you're not going to be able to build a great reputation. Eventually it's going to catch up to you, right? Because to build a great reputation, you have to make sure that everybody's happy. So you can't be trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. One bad review can cost so much, it's not even funny. And the industry statistics say that for every star rating you go up on Google, you can expect 10% more in gross revenues. So if you have a 4-star review versus a 5-star review, and you're doing $1 million a year in business, 10% makes a big difference in your business. And the more money you do, the more that 10% represents. So it's vitally important that you don't try to rip anybody off. If somebody leaves you a bad review, you have to do everything that you can to make sure that you can take the corrective measures to get a better review and learn from your mistakes, because sometimes every business is going to make a mistake, right? So if you do make a mistake, then you take ownership of that mistake and you learn from that mistake and you don't let it repeat itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Google reviews are really important, especially, let's say, if you're a car salesman. One of my friends works at the car dealership, and the review that I wrote, he said it got 50,000 views, which I thought was just absolutely amazing. And he said that helps him in the company. And, he works for Toyota, so it's a very big company. He says that helps him because his manager will give him, I guess, more to do. And then we just traded in another car and I work with him again. And so I can write another review and say that it was done as well as it was when we went the first time. And he said, 50,000 is a lot of people to read. It was a short review, but it really helps him a lot. He said we would be surprised how much it helps the company.
Oh, it's insane. And I leave reviews all the time. And I leave photographs, right? I have photographs that have over 1 million views already.
Yeah, that's amazing. People do want to see that, like
it's
the top,
crazy.
It says images, and you really do. You start looking for all of that. You are listening to Lion Tales on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I am your host, Dr. Lynnda Nadien, and our guest today is Danny Epstein, class of 1983. And we are talking about the importance of really being, I think, do you feel that you have control over a lot of the business aspects, and how do you make sure that as the business leader that you keep that control and in a positive way, control in order to make the business successful? How do you work with your employees and, the people that are around you and other companies?
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I've started a whole bunch of different businesses over the years. I've worked for the world's largest merger and acquisition firm as a business intermediary, which is just a fancy way of saying somebody who helps businesses to build intrinsic value and sell their companies is really what that is. One of the businesses I started was Evanstone Senior Care Incorporated, which was a home care agency. We had over 250 people on the payroll. There's a lot of things that you need to do when you're sending people into the homes of senior citizens who could be frail and vulnerable, right?
Yes.
So there's all kinds of checks and balances that you need to put into place in the forms of policies and procedures and things like that. For us, in Stratophi and Raleigh SEO team, Raleigh SEO team's kind of easy because we have a lot of younger, creative people who are very passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
So they love to engage with their clients, and they see it as a challenge. So they're really easy to manage. Where Stratophi could be a little bit more difficult, especially when we're working overseas. We could be working with people in the Philippines and people in India, and it becomes a lot more difficult culturally.
Absolutely.
To manage that. Yeah.
And to be, I think when you're working also, out of the country, you want to make sure that you have some idea about, cultural norms in order to not offend, assuming that you're getting a new client. And, how I guess Americans deal with a lot of out of the country work. I mean, we know so many people that travel out to China, and they do a lot of work outside of the U.S., which is really, an incredible thing. At Nassau, when you were taking any of those courses, and especially in the business administration program, did you find that they discussed anything about equity and inclusion and culture, back then now? Because, again, 40 years ago.
Back then, we were the leading manufacturers of the world, right?
Right.
It's funny because if you stop and think about it, it's like that was the last time there was really inflation like there is today, right?
Yes.
So we're coming back around to a similar environment that we had back in the 80s. Mm-hmm. So the global economy was just something that we were just starting to talk about. It's that in the future the global economy would exist. But America was the powerhouse. Right. We were the leading manufacturers in the world. And clearly that's not the case anymore. So that wasn't really a focus back then. Really a lot of philosophy, business laws, concepts, things like that, which goes back to exactly what we were talking about, because that's what they were telling you. They were telling you about free and open markets and delivering great customer experiences. Those were things that they were stressing back in those days. But it's really interesting, Lynnda, dealing with people overseas. It's like I work with a lot of people in the Philippines, and they are so happy to have a job, and they are so polite, and they have that work ethic that we used to have in the United States back in the 80s, where they really want to deliver.
Right,
but they live in a completely different world.
Right. You want to build those partnerships with the other side. And I think there's something about efficacy in work where, we may not see it as much anymore because people seem deflated and business is difficult. And you really have to work very hard to keep your business afloat and make good contacts with people. And then they say, oh, I work with these people and it was really a great experience, so I would recommend them to the next person. Yeah.
And the pandemic really had a profound impact on the labor force in the United States.
Absolutely. Yeah. So post-pandemic, we're coming out of it. I mean, I had a calendar, and every month I would write, month 36, 37. I think this would be 39, and February would be, let's say, 40 months of pandemic haze somehow. But what are the challenges, coming out of this now post-pandemic? Where do we go from this point?
Well, that's very interesting. I talk to business leaders every day. They have significant challenges that they're facing. We're working with one company right now on these ERTC credits. Have you heard about them?
I think I read a little bit about it.
So they're employee retention tax credits, right? So we're helping to spread the word with this company, ERTC Express. The government, during the CARES Act for COVID-19, had allocated all of this money in the forms of tax rebates for companies that retained W-2 employees during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But it was so burdensome for companies to be able to actually process the claims that the money still hasn't been distributed yet. And then the CARES Act was amended multiple times. So it's things like this that we have to think about in the United States. It's just like, these are challenges. So now, post-pandemic is the first time that the money is actually starting to be allocated. And a lot of people don't even realize that there's money out there. So that's kind of funny, too. So it's like here as a digital marketing company, where our job is to spread the word. So now we're literally spreading the word that there's all of this money that's available. And I see these, and Lynnda, it's mind-boggling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In the last week.
Yeah.
In the last week, I've seen several claims that have come through. There was one small SaaS company in Indiana with 19 employees. And they had like $200,000 in credits that they got.
Yeah.
Another one was an insurance agency. They got like $150,000 in tax credits. It's like it's mind-boggling. So many things have become broken and dysfunctional.
Yeah, and I think today they said, today's the first day of tax day. You can start doing your taxes, and I think there are 3 new caveats that will be on your report that you can use somehow. So maybe people will get some of that money back. And with the CARES Act, even with the public schools, each district got a certain amount of money, but we didn't really have that money allocated. And when we did have it, no one knew what to do with the money. We didn't know what we could buy or what was going to happen with it. So it's also, if a company gets that kind of money, obviously you want to, put it to good use, because that's a really amazing thing to get that.
Well, absolutely, and unlike PPP, which were loans, the ERTCs, companies don't have to pay back, and it's not just companies; it's anybody. Like I saw a case study of a church that had W-2 employees. So there's so many people who may be entitled to these credits, but they just don't even know that it's available. And I would encourage any religious organization or any business that had W-2 employees in 2020 and 2021 to reach out and get some information on it, because the money's allocated. It's already
Absolutely. There. So what is your main passion or interest now, post-pandemic? Encapsulate all of the things that we thought about while we were home, and now you're working and you're involved, and we feel like we're sort of free and can do all these things, and people may be more willing to take risks where before they may be saying, no, I'm not going to do it. But now we may have changed our thought process a little bit.
Yeah, well, we're certainly opening up. There's no question about that. I know a lot of the restaurant owners and the bar owners that we talk to are very happy.
Yeah.
I've actually spoke to an owner recently who shared with me that for the first time, they're only open 6 days a week. They would be open up 7 days a week if they could, but they can't get enough employees to stay open. But their profit margins are up, and they're making more money than they ever did before, which I was kind of astounded to hear that, because of inflation and everything. But I guess they're passing these costs on, and they're actually more profitable. But the business environment out there is a lot of people in small businesses are a little bit concerned, and they're a little bit worried. There's all the talk about recession coming up. People are concerned, rightly so.
Yeah. The debt ceiling scared everyone today and, the past week, because we've overspent. And so that is a big issue. You don't know if the majority of the public really understand the impact, but it seems that it kind of happens, and then they get it straight, and hopefully they'll be able to straighten it out, in terms of like that level of government. But at the same time, small business owners or anybody working in a specific field may be affected by the fact that we're in a crisis, but we're giving a lot of money to a lot of other countries that need it as well. So we are indebted to them as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
And the pendulum swings, right? So we just happen to be on one side of the pendulum. And the problem with the pendulum swinging is that right in the middle where it's best to be, it's only there briefly, right? It spends most of the time going back and forth to the other extremes, right? When we'll get back, it's like, I'm long on America. I'm long on Americans. Americans are just incredible people. It's just that we happen to be at this one particular point in time. A lot of it has to do with the pandemic and, the liquidity that was pumped into the marketplace and the interest rates. Did you hear about D.R. Horton?
Yeah, no, I did not.
The home builder?
No.
Yeah, their stock got just plummeted. They had like 80% of the contracts for new homes that they built were canceled in December.
Mm. And
that's devastating to a company.
Yeah, a lot of the companies were offering, mortgages to people that they knew really couldn't afford to keep up with the payments and the houses, and so that becomes a problem too. And the interest rate went up. I think one of my friends said he just bought his house. It was 8.7% was the interest rate, which is as high as my house. We bought our house in 2000, and it was maybe 7.5% at the time. So, those interest rates are very interesting because now we can look back. I mean, in 1983, when you were on the campus of Nassau, how did you get to school? Did you drive here?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and then
I did.
Do you remember?
I remember interest rates were double digits back then.
Yeah.
And, I remember, professors talking about it, and that was during the days of Paul Volcker.
Yeah.
So mortgages were, double digits.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to thank our guest, Danny Epstein. How can our listeners contact you?
They can visit us at Raleigh SEO team. .com is our website.
Okay.
They can visit us at Stratophi.com, and they are always welcome to give us a call.
I would like to thank you for being our guest today. My name is Dr. Lynnda Nadien. I serve as a director on the board of the Nassau Community College Alumni Association, and I'm a proud alum. Lion Tales is also available as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcast, and Spreaker. More information is online at nccradio.org. Thanks for listening to Lion Tales here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.